Ojibwe, masters of Great Lakes for centuries. Have you ever wondered about the people who could whisper to trees and read stories in birch bark? Welcome to another captivating episode of Native Legends and History Stories, where today we'll discover the remarkable tale of the Ojibwe, the keepers of the faith who mastered the art of living in harmony with North America's most challenging landscapes. Before we dive into this fascinating journey through time and tradition, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories about Native American heritage and wisdom. People of the Lakes, origins and territories. Picture this: a vast network of lakes and forests stretching across the northern United States and southern Canada, where skilled craftsmen built legendary birch bark canoes. Medicine men recorded their knowledge in intricate scrolls, and families gathered sweet maple sap under the spring sun. This was, and still is, the world of the Ojibwe people. The story of the Ojibwe is one of remarkable resilience and adaptation. Known by many names, Ojibwe, Chippewa, or Saulteaux, they are one of North America's largest indigenous groups, with a rich cultural heritage that continues to thrive in the modern world. Let's start with their names, each telling its own fascinating story. The word Ojibwe itself carries multiple interpretations, each offering a window into their cultural identity. Some say it comes from Ojibwe, describing their unique method of making moccasins, creating fire-cured, puckered seams that made their footwear distinctively waterproof. Others believe it refers to their mastery of birch bark canoe making, a skill that would become legendary throughout North America. The Ojibwe's original homeland begins at the mouth of the Street, Lawrence River in present-day Quebec. But their story doesn't stay there. Following ancient prophecies and visions, they embarked on one of history's most remarkable migrations, traveling west along the Great Lakes, in search of the land where food grows on water, a reference to the wild rice that would become central to their way of life. Today, the Ojibwe's presence spans an impressive territory. In the United States, you'll find thriving Ojibwe communities across Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and North Dakota. Cross the border into Canada, and their influence stretches from Quebec all the way to British Columbia, a testament to their remarkable ability to adapt to diverse environments while maintaining their cultural identity. At the heart of their traditional territory lies a special place, the Apostle Islands, with Madeline Island, Muningwunakonning, serving as their cultural and spiritual center. The name Muningwunakonning means home of the yellow-breasted woodpecker, and it's here that many of their most sacred traditions were, and still are, practiced. Let me share a story that captures the essence of their connection to this land. Franklin Bacina, an Ojibwe elder, once recalled how in his youth, those blueberries hung like grapes on those islands. His words paint a vivid picture of the abundant resources that sustained his people through countless generations. But the Ojibwe way of life wasn't just about taking from the land. It was about maintaining a sacred balance. Before harvesting anything, whether it was birch bark for their canoes or maple sap for their sugar, they would make offerings of tobacco and food to the spirits. This spiritual practice reflected their deep understanding that everything in nature is connected and must be treated with respect. The Ojibwe developed an intricate seasonal rhythm that showcased their profound understanding of their environment. In spring, they tapped maple trees for syrup. Summer brought berry gathering and fishing. Fall was the time for wild rice harvest, that precious food that grows on water that had guided their migration. Winter meant ice fishing and hunting in the deep forests. This seasonal cycle wasn't just about survival. It was a sophisticated system that ensured sustainable use of natural resources. Their traditional territory around the Great Lakes wasn't chosen by chance. This region offered everything they needed: abundant fish in the lakes, game in the forests, wild rice in the wetlands, and most importantly, the birch trees that provided material for their iconic canoes, wigwams, and scrolls. the Ojibwe became masters at utilizing these resources, developing technologies and techniques that would later influence European settlers. But perhaps what truly sets the Ojibwe apart is their role as keepers of the faith within the powerful Council of Three Fires Alliance. Along with their brothers, the Odawa the Traders and the Potawatomi the Firekeepers, they formed one of the most influential indigenous confederacies in North American history. The Ojibwe's spiritual leadership and wisdom helped maintain balance and unity among these allied nations. Today, while much has changed, the Ojibwe's connection to their traditional lands remains strong. From the urban centers of Minnesota to the remote regions of Ontario, Ojibwe people continue to practice their traditions, speak their language, and pass their ancient wisdom to new generations. Modern challenges have led to innovative solutions, with many communities now leading efforts in environmental conservation, cultural preservation, and sustainable development. As we delve deeper into their story, we'll discover how this remarkable people has managed to preserve their identity through centuries of change, and how their wisdom and traditions offer valuable lessons for our modern world. Puckered seams that made their footwear distinctively waterproof. People and organization. Let's delve into some fascinating numbers that reveal just how significant the Ojibwe presence remains in North America today. The Ojibwe stand as one of the largest indigenous groups north of the Rio Grande, with a remarkable population of approximately 320,000 people. But what makes these numbers truly interesting isn't just their size, it's the story they tell about survival and adaptation across two nations. In the United States, the Ojibwe population stands at 170,742 people, according to recent census data. But here's where it gets interesting. This number represents three distinct groups, each with their own unique story. The largest group, known as the Mainline Ojibwe, numbers 77,940 people. They maintain many of the traditional practices and cultural elements we've discussed earlier. Next are the Saulteaux, with 76,760 members. Despite being nearly equal in number to the mainline Ojibwe, they've developed their own distinct cultural variations through their historical movement and settlement patterns. The smallest of the three groups, the Mississauga, counts 8,770 members, but their influence on Ojibwe history and culture far exceeds their numbers. Crossing the border into Canada, we find another 160,000 Ojibwe people, making them the second largest First Nations group in the country, surpassed only by the Cree. This substantial presence stretches across multiple provinces, from the eastern shores of Quebec to the forests of British Columbia. But perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of Ojibwe social organization is their division into 125 distinct bands. Think of these bands as individual communities, each with its own leadership, traditions, and territories, yet all connected through shared language, customs, and beliefs. This system has proven remarkably resilient, allowing the Ojibwe to maintain their cultural identity while adapting to changing times. Words and wisdom. Now, let's turn our attention to what truly binds these communities together, their language, Anishinaabemowin, and their sophisticated system of alliances. Anishinaabemowin holds a prestigious position as the fourth most widely spoken native language in North America, following only Navajo, Cree, and Inuktitut. This isn't just a statistic, it's a testament to the Ojibwe people's determination to preserve their cultural heritage. The language belongs to the Algonquian family, sharing roots with several other indigenous languages across the continent. What makes Anishinaabemowin particularly fascinating is how it evolved into a crucial trade language throughout the Great Lakes region and the Northern Plains. During the fur trade era, its importance grew so much that many non-native traders had to learn it to conduct business effectively. In today's world, while many indigenous languages face the threat of extinction, Anishinaabemowin shows remarkable resilience. Communities across both the United States and Canada are implementing innovative programs to ensure its survival. From immersion schools to online learning platforms, from elder youth mentorship programs to social media initiatives, the Ojibwe are embracing modern tools to keep their ancient language alive. Of particular note is how the language reflects the Ojibwe worldview. For example, in Anishinaabemowin, many words for natural elements are treated as animate beings rather than inanimate objects, reflecting the deep spiritual connection the Ojibwe maintain with the natural world. This linguistic feature helps preserve not just words, but an entire way of seeing and understanding the world. But language isn't the only way the Ojibwe maintained their influence and survival through centuries. Their sophisticated system of alliances played an equally crucial role. At the heart of these diplomatic relationships stands the Council of Three Fires, a powerful alliance that exemplifies Indigenous political organization at its finest. Within this council, each tribe held a specific role, much like siblings in a family. The Ojibwe, as the older brother, served as the keepers of the faith. This role wasn't just ceremonial. It meant they were entrusted with maintaining spiritual traditions and ensuring that decisions aligned with their people's sacred values. The Odawa, as the middle brother, were the keepers of trade. Their position along major water routes made them natural intermediaries in the vast trading networks that crisscrossed the Great Lakes region. Meanwhile, the Potawatomi, the younger brother, served as the keepers of the fire, maintaining the sacred council fire around which important decisions were made. This familial structure fostered cooperation while respecting each tribe's autonomy. When facing external challenges, the council could act as a unified force, yet each tribe maintained its distinct identity and governance in internal matters. This balanced approach to alliance building proved crucial for survival during the tumultuous periods of European contact and colonization. Beyond the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe also participated in the Iron Confederacy, forming strong bonds with the Cree, Assiniboine, and Métis peoples. This additional alliance expanded their influence further west and north, creating a network of mutual support that helped all member nations resist external pressures and maintain their traditional ways of life. These alliances weren't just political arrangements. They were, and still are, living examples of Indigenous diplomacy at its best. They demonstrate how Native nations could build sophisticated international relationships based on mutual respect, shared responsibilities, and common interests, all while maintaining their distinct cultural identities. Today, while these historical alliances may not function exactly as they did in the past, their legacy continues to influence modern Indigenous politics. When Ojibwe communities face contemporary challenges, whether fighting for treaty rights, protecting environmental resources, or preserving cultural heritage, they often draw upon these traditional diplomatic relationships and principles. Modern Ojibwe leaders still reference the wisdom embedded in these ancient alliances when navigating relationships with government agencies, other tribes, and international organizations. The principles of mutual respect, shared responsibility, and balanced leadership that characterize the Council of Three Fires continue to guide Indigenous governance and diplomacy in the 21st century. Forging a nation. Independent days. Let's travel back to the mouth of the Street, Lawrence River, where our story begins. According to sacred Ojibwe oral history and birch bark scrolls, 7 prophets, known as the Miigis beings, appeared to the people with a powerful message. These spiritual guides spoke of a great journey westward, warning that if the Ojibwe didn't move, they would lose their traditional ways to the newcomers arriving from the east. The prophecy spoke of a specific sign, the food that grows on water. This mysterious food would later be revealed as wild rice, or manumin, a sacred plant that would sustain the Ojibwe for generations to come. But reaching this promised land wouldn't be easy. It would require following a path marked by 7 significant stopping places. The first stop brought them to Munia, where present-day Montreal now stands. Like stepping stones across time, each subsequent stopping place held its own significance and challenges. The second major pause was near the thundering waters of Niagara Falls, where the powerful rapids reminded them of the forces of nature guiding their journey. At their third stopping place, near what we now call Detroit, a crucial moment arrived. Here, the Ojibwe people divided into 6 distinct groups, each destined to play its own role in their expanding nation. Yet this division didn't weaken them. Instead, it allowed them to adapt to different environments and establish a broader presence across the land. The fourth stop brought them to Manitou-Minising, or Manitoulin Island, where they established their first significant new cultural center. This beautiful island would become a crucial hub for Ojibwe life, offering rich resources and spiritual significance. The fifth stopping place at Bawiding, today's Sault Ste. Marie, became their first new political center, marking their growing influence in the Great Lakes region. As the migration continued, the people split into northern and southern branches around Lake Superior. The northern group followed the lake's rugged northern shore, while the southern branch traced its southern coastline. This strategic division allowed them to maximize their use of resources and establish a stronger presence throughout the region. Eventually, both branches converged at their 6th stopping place, Spirit Island, located in the St. Louis River estuary near present-day Duluth. Here, surrounded by rich waters and abundant wildlife, they received another sign confirming their prophecy: vast beds of wild rice growing on the water, just as the Miigas beings had foretold. Their 7th and final major settlement was established at Shawgawamikong, modern-day La Pointe, Wisconsin, on Lake Superior's southern shore. This location would become a central hub of Ojibwe culture and commerce, perfectly positioned to access the rich resources of both the lake and the surrounding forests. But the Ojibwe story isn't just about movement, it's also about building and defending territory. As they settled into their new lands, they faced various challenges from other nations, particularly the powerful Iroquois Confederacy. The year 1662 marked a turning point, when the Ojibwe successfully halted the Iroquois advance near Lake Superior. This victory was more than just a military success. It demonstrated the Ojibwe's growing power and their ability to protect their new territories. They formed strategic alliances with other displaced tribes, including the Huron and Odawa, who had fled from Iroquois invasion. Together, they launched a massive counteroffensive that pushed the Iroquois out of Michigan and southern Ontario. The Ojibwe's expansion continued steadily across the northern Great Lakes region. Their masterful use of birch bark canoes gave them a significant advantage, allowing them to travel and trade across vast distances quickly. They established control over key waterways and trading routes, building a network of settlements that would form the backbone of their territory. Their influence eventually stretched across an impressive expanse, from the northern shores of Lakes Huron and Superior in Canada to the Turtle Mountains of North Dakota. In the south, they controlled much of present-day Michigan, northern Wisconsin, and Minnesota. This vast territory wasn't just claimed, it was carefully managed through a sophisticated understanding of the land and its resources. The Ojibwe's success in building this territory came from their deep understanding of the environment. They knew where to find the best fishing spots, the richest wild rice beds, and the most productive maple sugar bushes. They developed knowledge of seasonal changes and migration patterns, allowing them to make the most of their diverse landscape. Their control of the Great Lakes region wasn't just about resources, it was about creating a sustainable way of life. The Ojibwe established a complex network of seasonal camps and permanent villages, moving between them based on the availability of different resources throughout the year. This sophisticated system ensured they could maintain their population while preserving the natural abundance of their territory. European encounters. The Ojibwe first encountered Europeans in 1644, a moment that signaled a profound transformation in their way of life. The French Jesuit missionaries were the first to document their encounters with the Ojibwe people, sending detailed reports back to their superiors in France about this powerful indigenous nation. The early relationship between the French and Ojibwe was built primarily on trade. The French coureurs des bois and voyageurs quickly recognized the Ojibwe's strategic position around the Great Lakes. These French traders were different from other Europeans. They learned Ojibwe customs and language, traveled deep into Ojibwe territory, and often lived among the people for extended periods. Through these trade relationships, the Ojibwe gained access to European goods, particularly firearms. This technological advancement would significantly alter the balance of power in the region. The guns helped the Ojibwe begin to dominate their traditional enemies, the Lakota and Fox, to their west and south. They successfully drove the Sioux from the upper Mississippi region to the area of the present-day Dakotas, and forced the Fox down from northern Wisconsin. By the mid-18th century, the Ojibwe had established themselves as powerful allies of the French. Their control expanded significantly, reaching across nearly all of present-day Michigan, northern Wisconsin, and Minnesota, including most of the Red River area. On the Canadian side, they controlled the entire northern shores of Lakes Huron and Superior, extending westward to the Turtle Mountains. The Seven Years' War, 1756-1763, marked a crucial turning point in this relationship. The Ojibwe, having developed strong trading bonds and diplomatic ties with the French, chose to stand with them against Great Britain and its colonies. This decision wasn't just about loyalty to trading partners. It reflected a strategic choice to support the colonial power that had shown more respect for Ojibwe sovereignty and territorial rights. However, France's defeat in 1763 forced dramatic changes in the Ojibwe's world. The French were required to cede their colonial claims in Canada and east of the Mississippi River to Britain. This left the Ojibwe in a precarious position, needing to negotiate new relationships with the victorious British, whose approach to colonial management differed significantly from the French style. The transition period following French defeat was marked by significant challenges. After Pontiac's War, the Ojibwe had to adjust to British colonial rule. The Royal Proclamation of 1763 established new frameworks for land cession through treaties or purchase, fundamentally changing how the Ojibwe could interact with European powers regarding their territories. Despite these challenges, the Ojibwe demonstrated remarkable adaptability. They began establishing new trading relationships with British merchants, though these connections never quite matched the depth of their earlier French partnerships. The British approach was more formal and bureaucratic, requiring the Ojibwe to adjust their diplomatic strategies. The outbreak of the War of 1812 presented both challenges and opportunities. The Ojibwe made a strategic decision to ally with British forces against the United States. This choice was driven by hope that a British victory could protect them against United States settlers' encroachment on their territory. They saw Britain as a potential buffer against the expanding American presence. The Ojibwe's participation in the War of 1812 was significant, demonstrating both their military capabilities and diplomatic sophistication. They fought alongside British forces, while simultaneously working to protect their own territorial interests. However, the war's outcome would bring new challenges to their sovereignty. The aftermath of the war led to significant territorial changes. The Jay Treaty between Britain and the United States had major implications for Ojibwe lands. Britain, still preoccupied with its conflict with France, ceded large portions of territory to the United States, including areas in Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, parts of Illinois and Wisconsin, and northern Minnesota and North Dakota. This period of transition, from French to British influence, and finally to American pressure, showcased the Ojibwe's remarkable ability to adapt while maintaining their core identity. They navigated complex diplomatic relationships, made strategic military alliances, and consistently worked to protect their territories and way of life, even as the political landscape shifted dramatically around them. U.S.-Canada agreements. The story of Ojibwe's relationship with the American and Canadian governments is a complex tale of treaties, resistance, and ongoing struggle for sovereignty. As both nations expanded their territories, the Ojibwe faced increasing pressure to cede their ancestral lands. In 1807, a pivotal moment occurred with the Treaty of Detroit. The Ojibwe joined three other tribes, the Odawa, Potawatomi, and Wyandot people, in signing this agreement with William Hull, who represented the Michigan Territory. The treaty granted the United States portions of southeastern Michigan and the Maumee River area in Ohio. While the tribes retained small pockets of land, this marked the beginning of a pattern of territorial concessions. The Treaty of Washington, in 1855, brought even more significant changes for the Minnesota Ojibwe. This agreement transferred large portions of their land to the U.S. government and established the Leech Lake and Millelaces reservations. Unlike previous treaties of 1804, 837 St. Peters, and 1854 La Pointe, which had provided clear hunting and fishing rights, the 1855 treaty's terms were more restrictive. The impact of these treaties was profound, often due to misunderstandings about land ownership concepts. The U.S. and Canadian governments viewed land as a commodity that could be bought and sold. In contrast, the Ojibwe understood land as a shared resource, like air and water. This fundamental difference in perspective led to numerous conflicts and continuing legal disputes. Following the War of 1812, the United States government attempted to forcibly remove all Ojibwe to Minnesota, west of the Mississippi River. This led to violent confrontations and tragic consequences. The Sandy Lake tragedy stands as a dark reminder of this period, where several hundred Ojibwe died due to the federal government's failure to deliver promised fall annuity payments. In Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula, similar removal attempts met with resistance. Through the leadership of Chief Buffalo and growing public opposition to Ojibwe removal, bands east of the Mississippi eventually gained permission to return to reservations on ceded territory. However, some families were still relocated to Kansas as part of the Potawatomi removal. In Canada, the relationship between the Ojibwe and the government developed differently, though not without its own challenges. The Royal Proclamation of 1763 established the framework for land cession through treaties. The government signed numbered treaties across northwestern Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. These agreements were more detailed than previous treaties, as the Ojibwe Nation actively set the agenda and negotiated terms before allowing British settlers safe passage to the prairies. However, British Columbia remained largely without treaties until the late 20th century, and many areas still lack formal agreements. Today, the government and First Nations continue negotiating treaty land entitlements and settlements. These treaties require constant reinterpretation by courts due to their vague terms and the challenge of applying historical agreements to modern circumstances. In response to these challenges, the Ojibwe have developed sophisticated systems for protecting their rights and managing their resources. Several bands in the United States cooperate through the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, which oversees treaty hunting and fishing rights in the Lake Superior, Lake Michigan areas. The commission works with U.S. agencies to manage several wilderness areas. In Minnesota, Ojibwe tribal councils collaborate through the 1854 Treaty Authority, managing hunting and fishing rights in the Arrowhead region. Michigan's Chippewa, Ottawa Resource Authority oversees similar rights around Sault Ste. Marie and the waters of Lakes Michigan and Huron. In Canada, the Grand Council of Treaty No. 3 manages treaty rights around Lake of the Woods. The Ojibwe have maintained a strong tradition of political and social activism throughout their history. Long before European contact, they participated in sophisticated political alliances through the Council of Three Fires. From the 1870s to 1938, the Grand General Indian Council of Ontario worked to unite various traditional models into a single political voice, influencing colonial legislation. In the western regions, 16 Plains Cree and Ojibwe bands formed the Allied Bands of Quebec in 1910, addressing concerns about the government's failure to honor treaty force promises. This history of organized resistance and political engagement continues to influence modern Ojibwe activism. Today, Ojibwe communities are leading innovative initiatives in self-governance and resource management. They're expanding community gardens in food deserts and implementing mobile kitchens to teach nutritious food preparation. These efforts demonstrate how traditional knowledge can address contemporary challenges while maintaining cultural continuity. The modern legal landscape continues to evolve as Ojibwe nations assert their treaty rights. Current issues often center around natural resource access, particularly hunting and fishing rights. Courts frequently must interpret historical treaties in light of modern circumstances, considering both the original intent and contemporary needs. Through persistent legal action and community organization, the Ojibwe continue working to protect their sovereignty and treaty rights, while developing sustainable approaches to resource management. Their experience demonstrates how Indigenous nations can maintain traditional values while adapting to modern challenges. Ojibwe Lifeways. Social foundations. The Ojibwe social system stands as one of history's most sophisticated examples of community organization, built upon the powerful foundation of the Dudum clan system. This intricate structure balanced spiritual beliefs, practical governance, and environmental stewardship in ways that sustained their people for countless generations. At the core of their society stood 5 original clans, each blessed by the spiritual Migas beings and represented by animal totems. The Wawazizi bullhead, Baswanaji crane, Anawan pintail duck, Nuki bear, and Muswano little moose each carried specific responsibilities within the community. The Crane clan emerged as the most vocal leadership group, while the Bear clan grew so large it required subdivision into different parts: head, ribs, and feet, each with distinct duties. Marriage traditions played a crucial role in maintaining social harmony and genetic diversity. The strict rule against marrying within one's own clan created complex networks of relationships between different clan groups. When Ojibwe people met, they would ask an Njidudum, "What is your clan?" establishing immediate understanding of their relationship and social obligations to one another. The patrilineal nature of their society meant children belonged to their father's clan, a system that faced unique challenges during European contact. Children born to French or English fathers existed outside the traditional clan structure, unless adopted by an Ojibwe male. While these families received community support and shelter, their status differed from those born to Ojibwe fathers. Beyond the clan system, Ojibwe society organized itself into bands, groups of 20 to 50 people connected through blood, marriage, or kinship. These bands functioned as complete social units, moving together seasonally and sharing resources. Each band operated under a self-regulating council comprised of clan leaders, making decisions about hunting territories, resource management, and interband relationships. The Ojibwe developed a sophisticated kinship system, known as modified bifurcate merging, which created multiple layers of family connections. This system recognized siblings and parallel cousins from the same clan as equally close relatives, while also allowing younger siblings to share kinship terms with younger cross-cousins. This complex web of relationships ensured every individual had strong support networks throughout the community. Their understanding of family extended far beyond immediate relatives, embracing both ancestors and future generations through the concept of Anakubijigan. This term encompassed great-grandparents, older generations, great-grandchildren, and younger generations, reflecting the Ojibwe philosophy of interconnectedness across time. The strength of this social structure lay in its ability to provide every member with a clear sense of identity and purpose. Each clan maintained specific responsibilities, whether in leadership, healing, mediation, or other essential community functions. This division of duties ensured all community needs were met while fostering expertise within each clan. Today, while modern life has altered many traditional practices, the fundamental principles of the Ojibwe social system continue to influence their communities. The shortened greeting Annie still references clan identity, demonstrating how these ancient social bonds maintain relevance in contemporary life. The Ojibwe social system demonstrates how carefully designed community structures can support long-term cultural survival while adapting to changing circumstances. Their model of social organization provided effective governance, sustainable resource management, and strong support networks for all community members. Through this sophisticated social framework, the Ojibwe created a society where individual identity remained inextricably linked to community welfare. Each person held multiple complementary roles as family member, clan member, and band member, creating overlapping networks of support and responsibility that strengthened the entire community. Sacred knowledge. The spiritual life of the Ojibwe people reflects a profound understanding of the natural world, expressed through the sophisticated Midewiwin religious tradition and rich ceremonial practices that continue to guide their communities today. The Midewiwin, often called the Grand Medicine Society, stands as the foundation of Ojibwe spiritual beliefs. This ancient tradition preserves knowledge through oral teachings and intricate birch bark scrolls, which record their history, ceremonies, songs, maps, memories, stories, and even mathematical knowledge. These sacred scrolls communicate complex pictures that hold both historical information and spiritual wisdom. Spiritual beliefs and rituals guided every aspect of Ojibwe life, as they believed spirits provided direction through all life's challenges. The Midewiwin teachings include detailed creation stories and explanations of how various ceremonies and rituals originated. These weren't merely religious practices, they formed a comprehensive system for understanding the world and humanity's place within it. The Ojibwe creation story centers on Wenibojo, a central figure who shaped their world after defeating evil spirits, Maji Menidu. According to their tradition, Wenibojo found himself stranded in a pine tree as waters rose around him. Working with various animals who attempted to dive to the bottom of the waters, he eventually succeeded in creating land with mud brought up by a muskrat. This act of creation established the special relationship between the Ojibwe and the natural world. Throughout the year, the Ojibwe calendar filled with ceremonies tied to seasonal changes. During summer months, communities gathered for Jingotamog spiritual ceremonies and Naimi Idima social gatherings, or powwows, at various reservations across Anishinaabe territory. These gatherings strengthened community bonds while honoring spiritual traditions. The Ojibwe developed sophisticated methods for preserving and sharing spiritual knowledge. They used petroforms, petroglyphs, and pictographs throughout their territories. Medicine wheels and other sacred formations served multiple purposes, teaching spiritual concepts, recording astronomical events, and acting as memory devices for stories and beliefs. Their spiritual practices often incorporated natural elements with deep symbolic meaning. The Miyaji shell, found in distant coastal areas, played a crucial role in certain ceremonies. Its presence in Ojibwe rituals demonstrates the existence of vast trade networks that connected different regions long before European contact. The sweat lodge ceremony holds particular importance, especially for recounting oral history about the four directions. Modern teaching lodges continue this tradition, providing spaces where younger generations learn traditional language and ancient practices, ensuring cultural continuity through lived experience. The Ojibwe approach to death and burial reflects their deep spiritual beliefs and sense of community responsibility. When a death occurs, their tradition emphasizes the importance of swift burial, ideally the next day, or even on the day of death itself. This urgency stems from their belief that the spirit needs to begin its 4-day journey to Gagigamaniwanigozigwining, the land of happiness where the dead reside. During these crucial 4 days, the community follows specific protocols to assist the spirit's journey. If burial preparations cannot be completed immediately, guests and medicine men stay with the deceased and family, participating in continuous mourning that includes singing and dancing throughout the night. The body is placed in a specific position, with knees drawn toward the chest. Food plays a vital role in funeral practices, with offerings kept beside the grave throughout the 4-day journey. As darkness falls, the community lights a fire that must burn continuously through the night. The food nourishes the traveling spirit, while the smoke provides guidance for its journey. This combination of practical support and spiritual symbolism characterizes many Ojibwe ceremonies. On the 4th day, after the spirit completes its journey, the community holds a feast led by the chief medicine man. This leader holds the responsibility of distributing certain belongings of the deceased. Those chosen to receive these items must exchange them for new pieces of clothing, creating a bundle. This bundle, along with a dish, goes to the deceased's closest relative, who then must find worthy individuals to receive pieces of the new clothing. Modern Ojibwe communities maintain many of these traditional practices while adapting to contemporary circumstances. Lee Staples, an Ojibwe spiritual leader from the Mille Lacs Indian Reservation, confirms that present-day practices follow the same spiritual principles. Families still maintain a 4-day fire in their homes after a death, continue food offerings, and include tobacco, one of 4 sacred medicines, in their ritual offerings. While today's communities primarily use conventional caskets, they maintain connections to traditional practices by including birch bark fire matches with the burial. These matches serve the same spiritual purpose as ancient practices, helping the deceased light fires to guide their journey to Gagigamaniwanigozigwining. The persistence of these spiritual and ceremonial practices demonstrates the Ojibwe people's commitment to maintaining their cultural identity while adapting to modern circumstances. Their spiritual traditions provide continuity with the past while offering guidance for contemporary challenges, showing how ancient wisdom remains relevant in today's world. Through these carefully preserved traditions, the Ojibwe maintain their connection to both the natural and spiritual worlds, ensuring that each generation understands their place within the greater cycle of existence. Their spiritual practices continue to provide strength, guidance, and cultural identity for communities facing the challenges of the modern world. Living culture. The material culture of the Ojibwe people reflects their sophisticated understanding of their environment, demonstrated through their distinctive architecture, craftsmanship, and sustainable resource use. The Ojibwe traditionally lived in wigwams, expertly crafted dwellings that came in 2 primary styles: the Wajinogan domed lodge and the Nasawaogan pointed lodge. These structures utilized locally available materials, birch bark, juniper bark, and willow saplings, combining durability with mobility. While modern housing has largely replaced these traditional structures, wigwams continue to serve important roles during special events and ceremonies. Their legendary birch bark canoes represent the pinnacle of Indigenous engineering. These vessels weren't merely modes of transportation. They embodied the Ojibwe's deep understanding of materials science and environmental adaptation. The techniques for harvesting and preparing birch bark, along with the precise construction methods, were passed down through generations. The Ojibwe's mastery of natural resources extended to their food systems. Wild rice, or manuman, holds particular significance as both a dietary staple and a sacred food. Their traditional harvesting methods ensured sustainable cultivation while maintaining the plant's cultural significance. Maple syrup production demonstrated similar sophistication, involving precise timing and specialized techniques for tapping trees and processing sap. Their traditional diet reflected intimate knowledge of seasonal resources. Fish provided year-round sustenance, supplemented by game animals like deer, beaver, moose, and bear during hunting seasons. They cultivated beans, squash, corn, and potatoes, while also gathering various berries, blueberries, blackberries, chokecherries, raspberries, gooseberries, and huckleberries. The Ojibwe developed an extensive pharmacopoeia of medicinal plants. They used Agramonia gryposipala for urinary problems, Pinus strobus resin for infections and gangrene, and various other plants for specific ailments. This medical knowledge demonstrates their sophisticated understanding of local flora and its therapeutic applications. Today, Ojibwe communities are leading a renaissance in traditional food systems. They're expanding community gardens in food deserts and operating mobile kitchens to teach nutritious food preparation. These initiatives combine ancestral knowledge with modern health awareness, addressing contemporary challenges while maintaining cultural connections. The Ojibwe legacy continues through prominent contemporary artists and cultural figures. Kerr-G has made her mark in stage, film, and television, including roles in Strange Empire and The Expanse. Adam Beach has achieved recognition through powerful performances in Smoke Signals and Windtalkers. In literature, Louise Erdrich stands as a powerful voice for Ojibwe culture and history. Her works have earned multiple prestigious awards, including National Book Critics Circle Awards and the Penn Saul Bellow Award. Through her writing, she illuminates both historical struggles and contemporary challenges facing Ojibwe communities. These modern expressions of Ojibwe culture demonstrate its continued vitality and relevance. From traditional craft revival to contemporary arts, from sustainable food initiatives to innovative community projects, the Ojibwe continue adapting their rich cultural heritage to address modern challenges. Each band maintains its own flag, government, and cultural variations while sharing fundamental traditions. This balance between unity and diversity ensures the preservation of local customs while maintaining broader cultural connections. Through these varied expressions, Ojibwe culture remains dynamic and evolving. And there you have it, the remarkable story of the Ojibwe people, whose wisdom and traditions continue to enrich our world today. Their journey from ancient times to the present shows us how a culture can adapt while keeping its sacred core alive. Thank you for watching Native Legends and History Stories. Don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating tales of Native American heritage. And we'll see you in our next episode.